Hey, Marc, Millan here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Today I want to jump into 5 things that you can do to honor your team. Now, if you serve on a worship team, you might be a musician, you may be a singer. This might even be something for those of you who support those on the platform. You might be running lights, you might be running in-ear monitors, maybe you are the worship leader. Either way, I like to consider it all one team. And in order for a team to be successful, everybody's gotta buy into what they're doing together. So I wanna give you 5 things that you can do to honor your team, okay? Number 1, come prepared. Number 1, come prepared. Goes without saying. I think most of the struggles that I observe when I'm either coaching someone or visiting a team is that most of the time the work hasn't been done before the team gets together. So there's this tension of people trying to figure things out. We have to activate a lot of times our logic, so we get focused, we get kind of in a problem-solving mindset right when we get there, because we're trying to process information and execute vision at the same time. So I would encourage you, come prepared. Do as much as you can before the team gets together. That goes for everybody on the team. Everybody brings something, everybody contributes something so important, but come prepared. If you're a vocalist, that means know your vocal parts. Know where the song is going, know where the chorus is, the bridge, where it gets big, where it gets soft. Musicians, same thing, learn the composition of the song, so important. Because of YouTube, see, I grew up before YouTube was available, so I had to learn music by ear. I had to put music on, I had to put my headphones on, and I just had to hear where things came out and where things came in. I had to hear where things got big, and I had to learn how to discipline my ear. When you watch videos on YouTube to learn parts on guitar, drums, whatever it is, you're not training your ear, you're really training your eyes. And a lot of people don't know that. They see something and they go, I know it. They know it by sight, but they don't know it by ear. So if you're a musician, learn the composition, learn how to hear where the song is going and internalize it by using these 2 amazing gifts. If you're supporting the worship team, it goes without saying, the same thing applies if you're running lyrics. Wow, so important. The whole room when we're leading worship is following the lyrics. I mean, I might be leading worship, so I might give a song to someone else and they're leading worship, but if those lyrics are not there with us, the whole room is following what's on the screen. So if everyone comes prepared, it changes the dynamic of the entire experience. So for me, it starts right at the top. Come prepared. This also means prepare your heart, spend time in God's presence, because what we do is not a musical experience. Worship is a spiritual experience. So I would say make sure that even if you've covered the bases with knowing the material, knowing your assignment, make sure spiritually you've kind of understood. Sometimes a simple song can be frustrating for a team because they don't feel challenged musically. But in reality, the song is saying and pronouncing something very profound about God. So if the heart hasn't been activated to prepare itself to worship, and worship always leads to surrender, if that hasn't happened, then the musical part is always gonna dominate kind of how we feel about things. And I don't like that, that's too simple, I don't like that. So try to come prepared both with what you need to know and prepare your heart. So that's number 1, come prepared. Number 2, add your voice. I don't know what the environment is like for your team, but I know on my team, we bring things together and I'm always trying to see if something works, maybe it doesn't. Sometimes guitar players add things that aren't on the recording that sound beautiful. Sometimes vocalists bring ideas that weren't on the original recording. If you've been given the assignment to lead a song, if you've been given the assignment to be a co-worship leader or a secondary guitar player, whatever it is, add your voice. Come ready to serve what's necessary. What I mean by that is, if you're given a song or an assignment, make sure you come prepared to execute that. but don't come without any contribution of your own or your ideas. I would say beware of trying to change what is already there. Instead, honor what is there and then add your voice. That's what I mean by that. Just bring something of you that you would like to experiment with. And as always, we're here to serve, so bring a heart of humility and surrender. Be prepared. Not all ideas work. Not all ideas are great. Not all execution is great. So sometimes, you give someone permission to try something out and it just wasn't fantastic. And so you just got to be humble enough and honest enough to know, okay, that wasn't too great. So let's not do that. Let's not try that. I've done that many times. So number 2, I would say know your stuff well enough so that you're going to come ready to execute, but you can bring your own voice. I like to, before we move to number 3, I like to envision worship like this. When you have someone who has a birthday or an anniversary, you go and buy them a card at a store. And so, I like looking through the cards and I look at the cover, I look at what the wording is, and sometimes the cover's right, but the wording is wrong. And you're just trying to match, this feels like this person. And you grab the card and you open it and there's this maybe 1 or 2 liner in there. I would never just grab the card and mail it to the person. I would grab the card and then I would write something personal in it. And that to me is how I would kind of encapsulate this idea of adding your voice. The card represents the idea perfectly, and I want to honor that idea, but I want to add my voice to it as well. So there's a part of my personal conviction added to it. So if it's a song, if it's a moment, honor the idea, come ready to serve the idea, but make sure you leave your signature in there as well so that a part of you is invested with what that is. Okay, moving on. Number 3, this is a big one. Number 3, be consistent. Number 3, be consistent. This is so important because consistency is a result of discipline. And so anybody could have a good execution one time. Someone can get lucky one time. It takes discipline and skill to be able to repeatedly do something at a certain level of excellence and a certain standard. A great example of this that has always impacted me was the Dallas Mavericks basketball player Dirk Nowitzki. He used to shoot the basketball 10,000 times a day. I know that's crazy. He's an NFL player. You're thinking he's got millions of dollars. He's a pro. Why is he spending all his time doing it? He just had a disciplined routine. So every time he touched the ball and let it go, his body, his mind, his emotions felt a sense of comfort and confidence so that he can, under pressure at the last minute of the game, when there was 3 guys on him, when he had to turn around, under these pressure moments, his body wasn't something that he was going to not know how it would respond to. Does that make sense? So the routine and the discipline of shooting all those times gave him confidence. So when he was under pressure, he could execute. And I think this happens a lot. Sometimes our teams, like I said, maybe they didn't come prepared enough. And then we get to rehearsal or run through, and the team really isn't, they're giving about 30%, 40% of their really energy and effort. And then the room gets filled and the lighting changes and there's a whole bunch of different components. And now their body, their mind, they're all feeling these things that they're unaware of. And now they're trying to lead people, and it could affect your voice, it could affect your hands if you're playing an instrument, it could affect your focus. So I would encourage you, when I talk about being consistent, practice the way you're gonna play. That's so important. Like, do what you intend to do every time. The more you do it, the more physical confidence, the physical memory gets built into your hands, your mind, your vocal cords, whatever it is. The more you do something, the more confidence gets built just in your mechanical memory. They call it your executive function, they call it the executive functions of the brain. Like when you learn how to drive for the first time, your body's a little nervous and it's tense, but once you've done it a bunch of times, your body's relaxed this is the same concept. In order to create consistency, you have to constantly do something over and over again to build that executive function of the brain that allows the body to feel familiar with what it's doing. And consistency can only happen through discipline. So always practice the way you intend it to be. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I would say try to get up against that wall to see how close you can get to it. One of my favorites all time was Michael Jackson, and the video that released, "This Is It," was like, of all the years you heard of Michael Jackson, you knew he was outstanding. But when you watch "This Is It," you realize this is why. Like the way this guy practices and the way this guy rehearses with his team, this is why it's so phenomenal when an audience is there. Because he was always trying to work through the things he wanted to do. So practice how you want to play, to use a term, okay? That's number 3. Number 4, get feedback and apply the feedback. I want to encourage you to seek feedback. Seek feedback from your leaders. Seek feedback from those that you admire their skill, that you admire how well they do something. Like, go and ask them feedback. You could do this before you do something or after, but I would encourage you to get input. It's very hard for you to self-evaluate unless you have someone beside you. Self-evaluation and personal feedback does have its own benefits, and I think you can get to a point where you can progress with that. But if you really want to excel in something, I would encourage you to find someone who can come beside you and give you some really good feedback. A lot of times I'll do it. I'll say, "Hey, I'm gonna talk through this moment before this song. Can you tell me if it made sense? Can you tell me if I said too many words?" And I'm asking for them for feedback. Now, I probably have gone by myself and recorded it and heard it myself or wrote it out, but I'm asking for now an outside person to evaluate how it feels to them. And I think it's just very, very healthy for us to get feedback. It keeps us humble, but it also reminds us that we've always got to put in the work. And I think sometimes we can forget that. We've always got to work hard at something. Nothing's ever going to come naturally easy if it's going to be great. So get feedback and apply it. Apply the feedback. There's some great podcasts right here on YouTube from Craig Groeschel. Giving and Receiving Feedback, part 1 and 2, I would recommend that. There's a book called Receiving Feedback that I read, suggested by Craig Groeschel as well. I think it's phenomenal, so I would encourage you to check that out. But getting feedback will really help you grow, it'll keep you humble, and it'll really help you sharpen your gifts. It could be as simple as, "Hey, when I'm done with this, can you really tell me honestly what was really good about it, and then what you thought I could work on?" That's all you're looking for. You're not looking for criticism. You're not looking to be torn apart. You're just really looking for very practical things. "Hey, this was great. Your entry was great. But this is the part where maybe you didn't do that fast enough, or your mic was very far when you went into this note, or when you executed that on the guitar, your hand was very timid." Things like that. You want to be very specific, get specific feedback, but get the feedback and apply it. Okay, number 5 is grow your talent. Grow your talent. Jesus, in the parable of the talents, just to summarize, he gives 5 people a different amount. He gives one person 1, he gives his 5th person 10, and they all kind of do something with it. One person buries it, another person invests it, and then the owner comes back and he checks on what they did with it, and the one who invested it doubled their proportions. The one who hid it away under a rug did nothing, right? Because he just hid it away. So I would say God has given you something really special about Him. God has chosen to express a part of His glory through you in the gifts He's given you. But He's entrusted you to grow it. So there's a stewardship on your part to partner with Him so that the fullness of that gift could manifest. So it's like a seed. If I gave you a seed, it could stay in your hand, you could keep it and set it aside, or you can put it in the ground. you can water it, you can put it in a place where it receives sunlight, and then it starts to sprout and grow into something beautiful. So we all have that gift. It's like a seed. Some of us have more gifts than others. That's how God chose it to be. But how are you stewarding that gift? How are you growing your talent? I think this is what brings God glory. He gives us the gift, but what we do with it is a way for us to honor and bless Him back. And more importantly, is that the gifts He's given us are to serve one another. That's what it says in the New Testament in 1 Peter. So our gifts are to serve one another. So if God gave me a gift, I want to steward that because I serve you better as I grow that gift. I bring a blessing of God to your life when I steward what He's put in my life. So I think it's very important for us to steward the gifts that God has given us. So those are the 5 ways we can honor our team. I hope it helps you. I'm going to leave a couple of links below so you can check out those feedback podcasts. But until next time, from my heart to yours.